So this one is called The Darkest Woods Are Still Ahead by J. Wilburn. The wheels of the closed carriage tore through the rich dirt of the forest trail. Spikes and blades pointed out from the metal rims of the oaken wheels and spun in a blur like the deadly wheels of heathen chariots. I have wheels twice. That'll be fine. I'll leave it at that. Okay. High above on the rocker bench, perched on front of the ebony conveyance, two rotten bodies, showing bone and clinging flesh, held the reins of the horses. One undead driver steered the panicked animals through the winding bends of this cursed trail. Unnatural purple light spilled off them as they pulled the wagon at high speed. The other undead driver snapped an impossibly long whip at the horses and the creatures, and I need to turn this a little bit, and at the creatures attacking from all sides out of the trees. Okay, moving along. Inside the carriage, trunks, baggage, and clothes spilled everywhere as the vehicle tilted up on one side before crashing down on the tilted up in, let's say, on one set of wheels before crashing down on the other. In the midst of this clutter, put a comma there, Scallon questioned all of his life's choices that led him to bouncing off the thin walls of the cabin. Let's say the carriage cabin, so it's clear that he's inside this thing. Of the carriage cabin. Instead of guarding his head from the impacts that likely cost him degrees of intelligence and days off his life, he clutched a small box to his chest to protect it and its ancient contents. As his brain jostled inside his skull, the conscious thing inside the tiny box cried out into Scallion's mind for release. Something with claws and mangy skin, as pale as the hidden moon above the canopy of trees, latched onto the side of the carriage and showed its belly through the barred windows. Okay. So we can establish there's some protection inside here. He's not just has open windows. The wooden panels groaned as the claws scraped for purchase, and the creature tried to climb on top. One of the necromantic corpse drivers attacked with its whip. Scallon saw a lash of pink wound open across the monster's bony side, and it fell away from the carriage. As they raced onward, he hoped that creature at least had given up or was too far behind to catch up. The young man hoped, but he doubted. Inside his head, the thing kept screaming. Scallon cried out loud at it. "Be still, you incorporeal thing. I can't even think. What good is your thinking, boy?" Oh, I need to make that italics too. "What good is your thinking, boy?" The words echoed through his aching skull. "If all you do is roll around waiting to die." Scallon did not answer, but he closed his eyes, hugging the box against his body. The runes over its surface, let's say its carved surface, burned against his skin in a most unpleasant fashion. Maybe he was waiting to die. Something with wings rustled against the outside of the hurtling carriage. After landing, its wings seemed to brush the trees on both sides. The whip cracked a few times. The monster perched above pecked through the ceiling, raining splinters and sawdust onto Scallon's head and in his hair. "Set me free, you coward," the voice of the thing in the box demanded within Scallion's mind. The whip stopped, and something tore apart tore above with a rending sound that seemed to go on too long. The wings scraped against the outside of the speeding carriage in a way that sounded more like scales than, I don't want to say wings, more like scales than feathers. All right. The entire cabin shook down hard against the... Oh, I don't want to say shook down hard. I'll say bounced. No, let's say settled. The entire cabin settled down hard against the axles as the monster above launched itself into the air with a deep whoop from its wings. As it banked between trees, Scallon only saw it for 2 or 3 seconds tops. It looked to be covered in shaggy red fur, even over its wings. Until that moment, he would have guessed it was a small dragon. If this hairy abomination had a head, he didn't see it. If it had a name, he did not know it, even after his years as an apprentice to the Purple Mage. He did identify one of the undead drivers in the creature's talons. If the last driver were taken next, the carriage would roll to a stop and Scallon would wait to be eaten by the monsters of this endless dark forest at their leisure. With a small kernel of dark humor in the back of his mind, he realized the Purple Mage would be saddened by the loss... Okay, I need to make this loss, not lose. By the loss of the artifact in the box, but would suffer hardly a second thought for his apprentice Scallon. Your thoughts sicken me in their weakness, the thing from the box scolded. Scallon actually laughed as more claws dug into the outside of the carriage, with no spare driver to whip them away. He said out loud, "I'm sorry I disappoint a being such as yourself, but no one else succeeded in freeing you from that tomb, did they?" The thing laughed, and it felt like cold claws inside Scallon's head. The entity growled within the young man's mind. The greatness to take a thing is only celebrated if you also possess the power to hold on to it. Scallon said, "Perhaps your next benefactor will be better than me. I can save us both if you open the box." Scallon paused with that. The carriage bounded over roots and ruts in the trail as the wooden sides bent inward with whatever was climbing outside. How many demons promise such things to foolish boys desperate enough to believe them? "I am no mere demon, you child. I am the eyes," not the eyes, I want this to be singular. "I am the eye of Manevalor. I am a god." Scallon tried to remind himself that his mind was an open passage to this thing. Gods bring damnation too. I care not for your worship or even your obedience, but you are out of options, and that is when mortals must turn to gods for salvation. Now or never, decide if your life matters to you. Scallon did not so much make a decision as he simply allowed his muscles to move with their fear. Let me just be clear here. He opened the box. Alright, we'll keep that simple. Light, a deeper purple than any magic his master had ever used, radiated out of the open lid and washed over Scallon like a drowning wave. Even the creatures outside the carriage seemed to scream in fear. He dropped the box and held up his numb hands, surprised to discover he still possessed all his fingers. An object, the object, with edges too blurry to focus on, climbed up his leg like a giant spider. Scallon dared to try to swat the thing away, but the fingers he still couldn't feel. He still couldn't feel either pass through it or around it, like it wasn't even there. Scallon wondered if the object really even occupied the dimension he had always taken for reality. Something caught in one of the wheels. The carriage bounced so hard it was a wonder it didn't beat itself apart. The thing in the spokes and spikes cried out before it tumbled away. Plenty more crawled around the outside, compromising the structure. The eye of Manevalor continued up Scallon's body. Now he felt it under and through his skin. It ran up through his ribs with force, and he felt and heard bones crack. He screamed with pain, the pain of it, and realized he would not survive this choice. "Relax," the thing said. "You will host me for now, but I will leave you alive and well. Living in your body is no goal of mine. You aren't that important. Now let me save us." It climbed up and inside Scallon's back. Okay, I need to split it here. His shirt ripped open along his bulged spine. His left arm reached behind himself without his will. He tore away his cloak and realized he could see through his own eyes, but also saw strangely clear behind his back with a purple hue over the world. The double images threatened to drive him mad, but things were out of his control now. Through the purple eye of Manevalor, he saw the arachnid shapes climbing over the outside. His shoulders and elbows broke, turning his arms around backward. Let's say backward. That's what I'm trying to say. I should just say it, right? His head turned completely around on his neck like an owl. You'll be set right soon. Do not panic. Scallon panicked, but was powerless over his own mutating body. Manevalor using Scallon's twisted form, kicked open the door to the carriage. Let's see. The hardware for the latches fell away on the trail behind them. Alright, let's do this. I'll make this a new paragraph. He climbed up the outside of the racing conveyance like a spider himself. On top, the creatures turned on him. They lashed out with their sharp stingers. He could see the venom boiling inside their bodies. They're sharp, let's say scorpion-like. Because I've already said they're like arachnids, so we need to do this a little different. Scorpion-like stingers. Okay, there we go. He could see the venom boiling inside their bodies. His hands on backwards grabbed the stingers. Alright. Grabbed the stingers and hurled the creatures away. As one sprung for his face, his jaw on his backward head unhinged, and he bit through the body of the thing. Scallon, trapped inside his own mind, a prisoner inside his deformed body, wished he was dead as he tasted the spider thing's guts. Manevalor spit out the dead creature. More hairy pieces fell from his lips as Manevalor spoke, using Scallion's own throat, tongue, gritty teeth, and lips. Calm down. I will dilute the venom so it does not harm you, my host. The other spider things backed up a step. Perhaps they were not used to being eaten by humans foolish enough to race through this forest at night. The headless, furry, flying thing swooped down and snatched up a few of the spiders for them. Manevalor. Okay, I need to fix the spelling of this imaginary name I made up. Manevalor crushed and discarded the others. Do I get my body back now? Scallon tried to say, but he had no command over his mouth. Manevalor answered with Scallon's mouth. We are not to the most dangerous things these woods have to offer yet. As if summoned, something spotted and enormous raced along the path to the side. Its body tore low limbs from the trunks. It blocked the view of much of the forest in that direction. The gigantic thing crossed the trail in front of them, but then paced them along the other side. I'll say the other side. The undead driver held the reins and snapped the horses forward without reaction to this new threat. The purple magic swirling around their dark legs. Propelled the carriage onward through the night. Alright. Want to establish that these horses have magic on them, otherwise there's no way they pull a carriage like this at full speed, because horses are not cars. Unless they're magic, I guess. Scallon couldn't tell his left from his right anymore with his head on backward. All right, I'm going to describe his body a little more here. The swollen transparent bulb of the giant eye in his back pulsed out of time with Scallan's heart. Ropey veins. Can I do that EY? I sure can. Ropey veins climbed out of his flesh to anchor the eye, say the giant eye, in place. Benevolar turned the head completely around 2 more times as he spied in every direction with Scallan's eyes. Scallan screamed inside his head, "Stop that. You're going to twist my head clean off. Relax," his own voice answered. "I know what I'm doing." Scallan's backward arms raised, and Benevolar spoke in a language Scallan could not comprehend or remember once the words had passed. Great power erupted from his fingers and laced up the side of the huge thing sliding alongside the trail. It gave a dull, rumbling roar and veered deeper into the forest away from them. It did not even seem particularly hurt or angry, just annoyed and dissuaded. "Now, can you put my body back right and give me back myself? We are not even halfway through our greatest test yet, child," Benevolar declared. No reason for an apostrophe there, so we will take that out. Something boomed. The sound and vibration repeated. Benevolar bent over so that Scallan's body perched on its hands and knees with his twisted head upside down. "Is that really necessary? Stop whining and let me focus." The roving purple eye extended like a massive boil from Scallan's exposed back. It spied a severed arm still clutching the missing driver's whip. "Oh, gross," Scallan thought. Benevolar pried open the dead fingers and took the whip as he stood up straight again. Dark things with dozens of arms leapt from treetop to treetop above. Scallan's body circled one way as his head turned the other. He no longer bothered to protest. All right, we're in the home stretch here. He wasn't sure he wanted control of his body back after all this. "You'll be better than new and back in control when we meet your master on the other side of these cursed woods." The thing swung down toward the carriage. Benevolar still used magic, but cast it along the braid of the whip as he lashed the strange creatures. This went on for nearly an hour before they finally gave up. The horses started to slow more than once, but Benevolar cast more magic into them, and they ran faster. They ran faster in a veil of purple power that was barely brighter than pure blackness. Scallan wondered if the animals would drop dead the moment this was all over. Benevolar did not answer either way as he watched the world from Scallan's back in hues of purple. "Now?" Scallan asked. Benevolar sighed and whispered, "You have no idea what still lies ahead before this night will be through." Something hooted from deep in the trees, in the other direction, much closer. Something that sounded inhuman, but also very much like laughter, raked out through the night. Benevolor in Scowen's body stood ready for what was to come.